I had worked day and night for 2 years for my dream job. While preparing, I missed friends' weddings and skipped family functions. The things I liked, I gave them up. The people who were close, I drifted away from them. The interview went perfectly too. The panel was smiling. I thought this time it was done. Yet I was rejected. I failed. That day, for the first time, I asked myself. Even after doing all this. When things don't go my way. What should I do now? I didn't find an answer. And slowly, I began slipping into depression. In the middle of that, I came across this book by Haemin Sunim. This won't motivate you. This will make you uncomfortable. So let's see what Haemin Sunim actually said in this book. First, when you do everything right but the result still turns out wrong, where is the real mistake? Second, the one thing that makes your pain even deeper, and you don't even realize it. Third, when relationships break and plans fail, what should you actually do in that moment? Fourth, the kind of thinking that turns you into your own enemy every single time. Fifth, when you feel like giving up on everything, there is still one thing in your hands. Sixth, the way your pain doesn't shrink, but instead you grow bigger than it. Seventh, how to hold yourself together during life's most difficult moments. And there's a bonus too. Something I understood myself that night. When I closed the book and just stared at the ceiling. Something shifted inside me that day. I'll share that with you too, but at the end. Because to understand it, you first need to hear everything else. This is Book Echo English. Where readers don't just read, they become thinkers. One book every week. One idea that can change your level. Want to grow? Subscribe. This isn't time pass here. This is where transformation happens. So let's begin. First. Has it ever happened that you did everything right, yet the results still turned out wrong? You worked hard. You made the right decisions. You didn't take shortcuts. And still, the result didn't come out the way you deserved. And in that moment, what do you do first? You don't blame the situation. You blame yourself. Maybe I made a mistake somewhere. Maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I don't deserve it. This is where the real problem begins. Because the truth is, we all trust a simple equation. Hard work equals result. We've been taught this since childhood. Work hard, and you'll get the reward. If you do things right, things will go right. But there comes a moment in life when this equation breaks. And when it breaks, the biggest damage isn't done by the result. It's done by our interpretation. Zen monk Haemin Sunim says, when things don't go your way, you don't reject the result. You begin rejecting yourself. And these two things are completely different. A situation failed. You didn't. But our mind merges the two. I failed. Slowly becomes, I am a failure. That distance is very small. And very dangerous too. Listen to a small story. There was a farmer. He worked hard the entire season. He planted the right seeds. He watered them at the right time. He took full care of the field. He did everything a good farmer does. But that year, the rain never came. The crop was destroyed. Now think. Was the farmer wrong? No. Was his hard work useless? No. There was simply one variable. That wasn't in his control. That's the uncomfortable truth of life. There is always a variable in life. That is not in your control. You can control your actions, not the outcome. But we make a dangerous mistake. We attach the outcome to our identity. You didn't get the promotion. So you think, I'm not capable. The relationship didn't last. So you think. I'm not lovable. You didn't clear the exam. So you think. I'm not intelligent. Do you see the pattern? A situation fails. But we turn it into a certificate of our character. And that's the moment when failure doesn't hurt us. Our interpretation hurts us. Wait. If you're still listening, then like the video and subscribe to the channel. Because what's coming next might be the most important part of this video. The real mistake wasn't in the effort. The mistake was that we treated control and outcome as the same thing. Control is your domain. Outcome belongs to the world. The day this line becomes clear, that's the day failure stops breaking you. This isn't weakness. This is clarity. This is maturity. But there's a subtle danger hidden here. When you keep turning the outcome into your identity again and again, something else starts inside. Something that slowly eats away at your confidence. And the most dangerous part, you don't even realize it. What that is. In the next topic. And tell me in the comments. Have you ever turned a failure into your identity? Second. That one thing that makes your pain even deeper. And the strangest part, you don't even realize it. In topic 1, we saw that we turn a situation's failure into our identity. But the story doesn't end there. The real problem begins after that. Quietly. Slowly. Inside the mind. Its name is rumination. Rumination means that loop that keeps running in the mind again and again. The same moment. The same failure. The same conversation. Again and again. I wish I hadn't said that. I wish I hadn't made that decision. I wish that day had gone differently. Have you ever noticed? You try to sleep at night. Everything is quiet. But the mind suddenly gets stuck on something from the past. Something that happened weeks ago. Or months ago. Sometimes years ago. And suddenly, you start reliving it. The same scene. The same conversation. The same embarrassment. And the strangest part. Your body reacts the same way too. Your heart feels a little heavy. A slight pressure in your chest. As if that moment is happening again. That is rumination. Zen monk Haemin Sunim says something very simple. Pain happens once. But rumination keeps bringing it back to life. Again and again. Which means, the hurt that happened once, you repeat it in your own mind. 10 times, 20 times. Sometimes 100 times. And every time, you feel the same pain. As if that moment is happening right now. Now think of a simple example. Suppose you get an injury on your hand. The doctor says, don't touch it. It will heal on its own. But every 10 minutes, you keep touching it. Keep scratching it. Keep checking how deep the wound is. What will happen then? It won't heal. It will get deeper. Rumination does exactly the same thing. The only difference is, this isn't a physical wound. It happens with an emotional wound. Every time you replay that moment in your mind, you are opening that wound again. And the most dangerous part, you feel like you are processing it. You think, I'm trying to understand it. But in reality, you are making it deeper. Haemin Sunim has a line that is very simple, but also very powerful. You cannot change the past. But you can choose how many times you will relive it. Pause for a second and think. Because this is the trap of rumination. The past is fixed. But the mind keeps replaying it again and again. And slowly, it becomes a habit. An unconscious habit. You don't even notice that the loop is running. So what is the first step? Noticing it. Just noticing it. Next time, when the mind gets stuck on something from the past, pause for a second and ask yourself one question. Is this thought making me better in any way? Or is it only hurting me again? Most of the time, the answer is very clear. And that small pause can become the beginning of breaking the rumination loop. If you're still listening, write in the comments. What is the one thing you keep replaying in your mind again and again? And subscribe to the channel. Because the next point is going to be a little uncomfortable. And maybe the most practical too. And yes, that bonus I mentioned at the beginning. The night I closed the book. And something shifted inside me. That also has a connection with this rumination. But not yet. First, listen to the next point. Third, when relationships break, when plans fail, what should you actually do in that exact moment? Third, when relationships break, when plans fail, and life suddenly starts to feel heavy, then in that exact moment, what should you actually do? So far we've understood two things. First, we often turn a situation's failure into our identity. Second, then our mind starts rumination. Which means the same moment, the same conversation, the same mistake, keeps replaying again and again. But one very practical question remains here. In that moment, when everything feels like it's falling apart, what should you do? Most people do one of two things. First, they ignore everything. Nothing happened. I'm fine. Life goes on. And they try to appear strong on the outside. Second, they sink into that pain so deeply that getting out becomes difficult. Thinking about it all day. Feeling it all night. Both are extremes. And neither of them works. Zen monk Haemin Sunim suggests a third path. He says, feel it, but don't live in it. This line sounds simple. But honestly, this might be one of life's most difficult skills. Because since childhood, we've only been taught two options. Either be strong, or believe that feeling pain is weakness. But Haemin Sunim says, feeling pain is not weakness. The real problem is running away from feeling it. Think of a small example. Suppose you have a very close friend. He lost his job. His relationship ended. Problems are going on at home. He comes to you. Now what do? Often we say, just move on. Don't think about it so much. Stay positive. And honestly, most of the time he leaves, feeling even more alone. Because he didn't need a solution. He just needed this. Someone to sit with him. Someone to listen. Without judging. Haemin Sunim says, we often make this mistake with other people. But the biggest mistake, we make it with ourselves. When we are in pain, we tell ourselves, move on. Don't be weak. You're getting upset over something so small. And that moment makes the pain even deeper. So in that moment, what should you actually do? Haemin Sunim calls it self-compassion. Which means treating yourself the way you would treat your best friend. If your friend is in pain, you don't judge them. You simply say, I understand. This is really tough. Now imagine saying the same thing to yourself. In that moment say to yourself, yes, this is painful. This is difficult. And it's okay to feel this. That's it. No lecture. No life lesson. No forced positivity. Just acknowledgement. And the interesting thing is, many studies in psychology show that people who acknowledge their emotions without judging them recover from them much faster. Even faster than people who suppress their emotions. Because there is a simple rule. What is felt can be healed. What is suppressed settles deeper inside. Pause for a second and think. How many times have you told yourself, just move on, when what you actually needed was a little time to feel it? If you're still listening this far, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments, in which situation do you keep telling yourself, just move on, and yet inside, the same pain remains. And yes, remember I mentioned a bonus insight at the beginning. That is one step ahead of this self-compassion. Something you can apply that very night, when everything feels heavy. But not yet. First listen to the fourth point. Fourth, that kind of thinking that turns you into your own enemy every time. Fourth, the kind of thinking that turns you into your own enemy every time. So far we've seen three things. First, we turn failure into our identity. Second, then the mind starts rumination. The same moment, the same mistake, keeps replaying again and again. Third, we start running away from the pain, or try to suppress it. But if you look a little deeper, behind all three of these, something else is working. A hidden force that fuels all of it. It's called the inner critic. That voice that lives inside you all the time. Sometimes quietly, sometimes very loudly. You made the same mistake again. You will never change. Look at others, they've moved so far ahead. Why does this always happen to you? The most interesting part, that voice doesn't belong to some outside person. It sounds like your own voice. And maybe that's why it hurts the most. Because you can't run away from it. Zen monk Haemin Sunim says, most people look for their worst enemy outside. But the truth is, the biggest enemy often sits inside. And that enemy is your negative self-talk. Think about a small experiment. Imagine a close friend of yours. He makes a mistake. He comes to you and says, man, I messed up. What do you say? You probably say, it's okay. It happens. Do better next time. You're capable. Now imagine you make the same mistake. What do you say to yourself? You couldn't even do something this simple. This always happens. You'll never achieve anything. Did you notice the difference? You give your friend kindness. But to yourself, you give cruelty. And the most dangerous part, it becomes so normal that you don't even notice it anymore. That voice keeps running in the background. In every decision. After every failure. During every comparison. Haemin Sunim shares an interesting insight. Sometimes the inner critic is not even your voice. It belongs to someone else. Maybe a teacher. Maybe a parent. Maybe someone who once told you, "You're not enough." And that sentence sank so deep inside you that now you repeat the same line to yourself. Pause for a second and think. Can you recognize whose voice it really is? Most people can't. Because after so many years, it starts sounding like their own. So how do you deal with it? Haemin Sunim says, don't try to silence it. Because the more you try to suppress it, the stronger it comes back. Instead, try a small experiment. Next time that voice appears, take one step back and simply observe it, as if it's an outside voice. Then tell yourself, this is not my truth. This is just a thought. And remember, a thought is not reality. This small shift is extremely powerful. Because the moment you see that voice as something separate from you, its power starts fading. Slowly. It stops defining you. If you're still listening, write in the comments the one sentence your inner critic says most often. And subscribe to the channel. Because the next point is directly connected to this. And yes, remember the bonus insight I mentioned at the beginning. That night, when I closed the book, and something shifted inside me, its deepest connection is with this inner critic. But not yet. Wait a little longer. Because now comes the fifth, and maybe the most important point. When you feel like you should give up everything, there is still one thing completely in your control. Fifth, when it feels like you should give up everything, there is still one thing completely in your control. There comes a moment in almost everyone's life when suddenly everything feels heavy. In a job, in a relationship, in a dream, sometimes even within yourself. That moment when the exhaustion becomes so deep that even trying starts to feel pointless. You think, that's it. I'm done. At that moment, most people do one of two things. Either they force themselves. No. I have to stay strong. I can't break. Or they completely give up. Whatever happens now, happens. But Zen monk Haemin Sunim talks about something that still remains in your hands. Even in that moment. Always. No matter how bad the situation becomes. That thing is your perspective. Meaning, how you choose to see a situation. No one can take that away from you. A job can disappear. A relationship can break. A plan can fail. But how you interpret it, that choice is always yours. Now think about a story. During World War II, there was a psychiatrist named Viktor Frankl. He was imprisoned in a Nazi concentration camp. Everything was taken from him. His family. His freedom. His future. But inside the camp, he noticed something strange. Some people shared their piece of bread with others. Some people protected their dignity until the very last moment. And some people completely collapsed from within. The situation was the same for everyone. But the response was different. From this observation, Frankl later wrote a line that became famous. Everything can be taken from a man. But one thing: the freedom to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Meaning, even if everything is taken from you, one freedom still remains: how you choose to respond. Haemin Sunim says almost the same thing. What happens to you is not always in your control. But what you do with it, that is always your choice. This isn't motivational talk. It's actually an uncomfortable truth. Because the moment you accept this idea, excuses disappear. And something new begins. Responsibility. Responsibility for your response. Your attitude. Your next step. Here's a small practical exercise. Next time that moment arrives, when you feel like saying, "That's it. I'm done," ask yourself one question. In this situation, what do I still have? Not what you lost. What still remains? That small shift is incredibly powerful. Because it moves you from a victim mindset to an active participant in your own life. Haemin Sunim says, when everything feels broken and nothing seems under your control, if in that moment you can still choose how to see the situation, then you are not helpless. Never. If you're still listening, write in the comments about one situation where you changed your perspective and suddenly everything felt different. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because what's coming next might be the most practical part of this entire video. Understand the fifth point. In one simple line: what happens to you is not your story. What you choose to do with it, that becomes your story. Now let's move to the sixth point. The approach. Where the pain doesn't disappear, but you grow bigger than it. The sixth point. The way where the pain doesn't disappear, but you grow bigger than it. So far, we've looked at many things. Turning failure into your identity. The mind's rumination loop. Running away from pain. The voice of the inner critic. And the power of perspective. But there is still one honest question left. Even after understanding all this, the pain still remains. No book can completely eliminate it. No technique can erase it. So what should we do then? Zen monk Haemin Sunim shares a very honest truth here. He says, growing bigger than pain doesn't mean the pain disappears. It means your capacity increases to carry it. That might sound a little heavy. But honestly, this may be one of the most truthful things someone can tell you. Think about a simple example. When a child learns to walk for the first time, they fall again and again. But every time they get back up, their muscles become a little stronger. Their balance becomes a little better. The falling doesn't stop, but their capacity to get back up keeps increasing. Life works exactly the same way with pain. Every time you pass through a painful situation and face it honestly, something new develops inside you. A deeper understanding. A new level of maturity. A different perspective. Something that people often don't have if they've never truly faced pain. In psychology, there's a concept called post-traumatic growth. It means this. Some people break down after trauma. But some people come out of that same experience with something new. They become stronger, more aware, more compassionate. And the interesting thing is, this isn't always just chance. Often, it's a choice. The choice of how you carry that pain. Now here comes a practical shift. Haemin Sunim says, when pain arrives, don't only see it as a problem. Try seeing it as a question. Ask yourself, what is this situation trying to teach me? And remember, this is not toxic positivity. This isn't that cliché line. Everything happens for a reason. It's simply a direction. A way to redirect the energy that would otherwise keep eating you from the inside. Let me share a small example. When I didn't get my dream job, 4 months, I kept asking the same question. Why did this happen to me? And honestly, there was no real answer. But one day, when I had stepped a little outside that phase, I asked myself a different question. What did this rejection actually give me? Slowly, the answers appeared. Resilience, self-awareness, and the realization that my worth does not come from a job title. The pain was still there, but its meaning changed. And the day the meaning changes, pain stops breaking you and starts shaping you. If you're still listening right now, write in the comments one pain in your life that taught you something that gave you a lesson. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do it now, because we are about to reach the final and perhaps the most important part of this journey. The 7th point. How to hold yourself together during life's most difficult moments. The 7th point. How to hold yourself together during life's most difficult moments. So far, we've understood a lot. Turning failure into your identity. The mind's rumination loop. Running away from pain. The voice of the inner critic. The power of perspective. And the capacity to grow bigger than pain. But even after knowing all this, there comes a moment when every theory suddenly feels useless. When no framework works. When no quote helps. When you just feel empty inside. In that moment, what should you actually do? Zen monk Haemin Sunim gives a very simple answer. He says, in that moment, you don't need to do something big. Just take the next step. Just one. The next one. It sounds very simple. But the truth is, when you are inside that moment, it may be the hardest thing to do. Because in that moment, your mind carries the weight of your entire life at once. What will happen next? When will this situation get better? Will I ever recover from this? And the weight of all these questions becomes so heavy that we simply freeze. Haemin Sunim says, this is a trick of the mind. It shows you 1,000 future problems all at once. But the reality is, right now, you only need to solve one problem. Just one. Let me share a small example. After that rejection, when I was in one of the lowest phases of my life, there was a day when even getting out of bed felt impossible. That day I told myself, today I don't need to fix my entire life. Just get up. Then, just drink some water. Then, just step outside for a few minutes. No big plan. No grand comeback. Just one small step. And the interesting thing is, that small step makes the next step possible. Then the next. then the next. This is the core message of Haemin Sunim. In the most difficult moments of life, you don't need to become a hero. You just need to remain human. Someone who is tired. Someone who is hurt. Someone who is confused. But someone who can still take one next step. Haemin Sunim says something else that deeply hit me. He says, "You are enough. Just as you are. Right now. In this moment." The sentence looks simple. But if it truly sinks in, a lot can change. Because we always keep thinking, when I achieve this, then I'll be enough. When my relationship gets better. When I get that job. When my life becomes stable. But the truth is, that moment may never arrive. Because being enough is not a destination. It's a choice. Right now. In this moment. If you're still listening till here, write in the comments. One moment in your life when you simply took a small step, and suddenly everything felt a little more manageable. And if this video helped you, like it, subscribe to the channel, and share it with that friend who might need this the most right now. And now, the moment has come that I've been hinting at since the beginning. If you're still here, you're already ahead of 90% of people. Because now comes the bonus insight. The realization I had that night. When I closed the book, sat quietly looking at the ceiling, and something inside me shifted. If you've stayed till here, then honestly, you're already ahead of 90% of people. Because now comes the one idea I've been holding back since the beginning. That night, when I closed the book, the room was completely silent. No music. No notifications. Just me. And the ceiling. And one question kept circling in my mind. Why am I so exhausted? At first I thought, maybe it was because things didn't go the way I wanted. I didn't get the dream job. My plans failed. Some relationships broke too. But the more I thought about it, a strange realization appeared. I wasn't tired of life. I was tired of trying to control everything. Every situation. Every outcome. Every person. Every result. I was constantly fighting a battle that simply cannot be won. And that night, maybe for the first time, I stopped fighting. Zen monk Haemin Sunim says something in this book that might be the most uncomfortable truth. He says, most suffering doesn't happen because life is difficult. Suffering happens because we keep trying to make life something that it simply isn't. Pause for a moment and think. How much energy do we spend trying to control what others think about us? Trying to control how a relationship should work. Trying to control what our future will look like. And when control slips away, we tighten our grip. Harder. And harder. And harder. Until finally, our hands get tired. But letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. Letting go also doesn't mean you're giving up. The real meaning of letting go is this: understanding that some things are in your control, and some things are not. And the things that are not in your control, you allow them to leave. Without guilt. Without shame. Without telling yourself, I'm weak. Imagine this image. You're in a river. And you're trying to swim against the current. With all your strength. Getting tired. Almost drowning. But you still refuse to stop. Because you think, if I stop fighting, I lose. But Haemin Sunim says, if you learn to swim with the current, you won't drown. You'll float. Letting go isn't weakness. It may actually be the greatest strength. Because it takes real courage. The courage to say, I did everything that was in my control. And the things that weren't in my control, I let them go. That's what I understood. That night, I didn't get the dream job. I went through a phase of depression. It took months to understand myself again. But the day I truly let go of that rejection, something became lighter. The pain didn't disappear. But the weight I had been carrying myself was gone. And only then, moving forward, became possible. This is the core of the entire journey. Things will not always go your way. But you can always choose what to do with them. Hold on to them. Or let them go. Tonight, before you sleep, try a small experiment. Think about that one thing you're holding on to very tightly. A past mistake. A broken relationship. A failed plan. And ask yourself just one question. Is this in my control? If the answer is no, then tonight, loosen your grip. A little. Not all at once. Just a little. And maybe that small step will make you feel a little lighter inside. If you've listened till here, write in the comments one thing you want to let go of today. Because many times, healing begins simply by letting go. In this entire video, we looked at the same question from different angles. When things don't go your way, the real problem isn't always the situation. The real problem is the story we create about it inside our mind, turning failure into our identity, drowning again and again in rumination, trying to run away from pain, believing the voice of the inner critic, and holding on tightly to things that were probably never in our control. Zen monk Haemin Sunim doesn't say that life will become easy. He simply says, you can become bigger than it. Tonight, before you sleep, think about that one thing you've been holding on to for a long time. And just loosen your grip a little. Let me ask you one thing. What did we really learn today? Letting go. Changing perspective. Recognizing the voice of your inner critic. But there's another truth. None of this will actually work until your thinking changes. Because if you let go today, but the same old thinking comes back the next moment, you'll end up in the exact same place again. That's why the next video is You Become What You Think. There, we'll understand how your thoughts quietly shape your entire life. This video was just the first step. Turn on notifications. Subscribe to the channel. Because without the next video, this journey remains incomplete. This is Book Echo English, where we don't just read books. We learn how to read life. And listen. If you genuinely want to grow, don't stop here. There are 2 videos on your screen. They're just as valuable. Watch one now. Don't waste time.